Hi, I'm Ben.
And I'm Jared. If you're watching this, you're already starting on your venture in this teacher guide for the MMS Big Data book that you're going to be working on very shortly with your students.
We don't often think about the impact that the sun and space weather have on the technologies that we use here on the Earth. Things like our cell phones and Wi Fi and all kinds of impacts that they can have.
So, as your students begin working through the activities, you're going to find that there are two major themes. One is that you're going to be looking at the concepts of space weather with your students and what are some of the causes as well as what's some of the data that's collected. And the second piece is tying directly to that data. As we begin to focus on student analytics and what students are doing with that data, how can they become better scientists through the understanding of the data and reporting of it?
Now, you should understand that we did a teacher companion guide to a book called iMaginetics. And in that book, students were able to take a look at the causes of space weather and the impacts that they have on the Earth.
So what we really wanted to focus on with this book is really allowing students to mine the web for all of the valuable data resources that are there, analyze that data, maybe by combining it with other data sets, and make predictions about how space weather, as well as other natural phenomenon, could be predicted for the future for the benefit of society.
And we also want students to be able to take a look at how they can become citizen scientists, where they take that data, they analyze it, and they do something that looks at how they can have an impact on their local and global community.
And so as we begin this adventure, what we're going to be looking at is really founding all of the common principles that are found in the ISTE computational thinking standards. What we really want to see is students being able to apply what they've learned about data and the use of data to become better thinkers. And that thinking is really heavily weighted in their ability to make good, conscious decisions about how to use technology to report what they've learned.
And we know that the careers in this field of using computational thinking and statistics is a field that is exploding. And so your students will greatly benefit from doing the activities that are in this book. And we're going to take a walk through the student book. So let's take a look.
As you begin to use the student activity guide, it's important that you understand the structure that has been consistently used throughout the book. The book opens with a table of contents and a message to the instructor, giving you some background about the book itself. But importantly, what you'll find is that in that introduction, it talks about how all of the italicized text that you'll also note is put inside of a box in each section is how students are able to quickly identify the storyline of the book of Mark and Cindy and their adventures through the data exploration activities. As soon as each of those sections, those italicized boxed areas, are complete and the students understand what it is that the parallel activity that Mark and Cindy are engaging in, they'll see that there is in blue text an objective that gives them an idea of what it is that they'll be able to do at the completion of the next portion, which is an activity. After each of these activity sections, you'll see that there is a materials as well as a background. In the background section, this is where the students are learning about the content. And there are two different types of content that you'll see in the book. One is a data-based content. So they'll learn about the concepts of data, whether it's the careers, such as this example with the data scientists, or the actual terms that are used when talking about data, like quantitative or qualitative. You'll also see in the background sections, this is where the space weather activities will be introduced and where the content related to space weather will be addressed. After the background information, you'll see that every section begins with a procedure. And in each of these procedures, they'll be broken down into one or more parts where the students will be asked to conduct activities, possibly record what they're doing in an analog way. It may just be simply writing inside of these boxes to make sure that they're collecting all of the evidence that they need until the ultimate goal, which would be at the end of each of these activities as a whole, or at the end of even each part, there'll be digital age products that the students will be creating. So in this example, we don't want the students just simply writing a paragraph about what they learned or answering some analysis questions, but instead, we want them to take everything that they notated within those boxes of the activity and do so creating a podcast that explains the culminating understanding of what they learned. So you'll see as we go through each of our chapters and sections, that similar text structure follows all the way through so that no matter what chapter your students are working on, there's always a consistent understanding of what is going to come next and how to follow through to complete the activities in a way that will be able to allow them to be successful, learning not only the data pieces of the activity, but also the space weather components of what they're going to be conducting.
So now that you've had a chance to take a look at how we've structured the student activity guide for you to use with your students, let's talk a little bit about how we've designed this teacher guide.
We've aligned the student activities to both the computational thinking standards and to the ISTE standards. So you can look for the symbols for those two sets of standards, and then you can read how we've connected them to those standards.
We've also created over a dozen support structure videos that you'll be able to use to be able to watch how to do some of the experiments and activities with your students, as well as design some enrichment exercises that may go above and beyond even what the student activity guide asks your students to do.
And we've also provided some videos that allow you to explore how to change your classroom into one where there's digital learning taking place. So going beyond just having students answer the questions, but also putting it into a format that really works in a digital era.
As you're going to find, we really want students to become citizen scientists. We want them to be able to either tap into data sources that are already existing on the web to contribute and share, even through the use of social media. But we also want them to either create or use experimental designs that are already out there and collect data from a larger community so that they can begin to become more adept at using that data, analyzing that data, and seeing that depending upon where that data comes from, it may be a little bit different than when they're doing it themselves at home.
And in the end, our hope is that students will be able to take actual data from the MMS mission and be able to comment and provide their analysis to the global community so that we can take a look at how space weather affects us here on the Earth.
So thanks for joining us on this very exciting mission, and also get ready to embark on an exciting time with looking at big data with your students.